I feel like as a people, our reviews tend to be really biased or really polarized. More and more society is getting really polarized. We're all pushing our way to the edge. And I feel like you see that no place more than with reviews. Two things kind of come into play there, I think. One, you have a really bad experience with a product or a bike or a business, a motorcycle, car, whatever it may be. You have a really bad experience with it and you instantly run to the reviews because you're upset. You want to vent to people, you want to be heard, you want to complain about how your sandwich on Uber Eats started at $15 and ended up being $45 delivered. You really just want to vent. So you go in, you leave that 1-star review and you just hammer them out, paragraphs, harsh words, you go at it. Or you spend your money on a product, let's say a motorcycle for instance, because this is a motorcycle channel. You spend your money on a motorcycle, so now you are convinced that that is a 5-star product no matter what happens because it is your product. You take pride in this thing that you spent your hard-earned money on. So no matter how much it breaks down, no matter how many check engine lights you get, no matter how many times it smells funny or sounds funny or just doesn't work, no matter how many times a dog drives by barking, yelping really loudly, probably into the camera that you can hear, you're convinced that your thing is good and you'll go to bat for it. You're like 5 stars no matter what. This bike never starts, it runs rough, it's slow, it's unreliable, it just whatever, bad on gas, low power, but it's a 5-star because it's your bike, you know? I don't think we have 5-star or 1-star products. I don't think we have 5-star or 1-star people or businesses or any of that. I feel like most things are somewhere around the 3 to 4 range. Most things are floating right in the middle, but we just don't allow ourselves to see that. My mother always used to say, or always does still say, she's doing great. Hi, Mom. She used to say, lay out your pros and cons. If you have pros list and a cons list and the pros heavily outweigh the cons, then that is the thing for you. But if the cons list is controversially really outweighing the pros list, maybe sell that bike, sell that car, leave that job, break up with that person, whatever it may be. When the cons outweigh the pros, don't listen to your heart, just do that thing. And listening to her on that has really worked out for me in life. Your heart will convince you that a bike is great. Your heart will convince you that a bike sucks just because of something you're going through with it. But on paper, if it doesn't tell that same tale, just listen to the paper. Most times it won't fail you. So taking those pros and cons of things into consideration, we are going to start a new video series here. We're going to start with the Honda Super Cub that's sitting next to me here because it seems to be your favorite bike. It gets the most views, the most likes, the most comments, the most questions. Somehow the Honda Super Cub has become synonymous with this channel, so it seems like the perfect bike to start this series with. We're going to talk about my top 3 features and my bottom 3 dislikes about the Honda Super Cub. Top 3, bottom 3, Honda Super Cub. Let's get on into it. The number one thing I love about the Honda Super Cub has got to be the looks. I think Honda nailed it in the looks department. The bike is beautiful. It honestly looks just like the old one, except just scaled up a little bit because obviously modern bikes are getting bigger, modern cars are getting bigger, modern people are getting bigger, but the bike still looks just like the old one, but a little larger and just still flows just as nice as ever. The leg shield flows perfectly into the frame. The front fender and the rear fender have matching little kick-ups at the back there just to kind of tie those two to each other to kind of round out the whole look. Chrome is exactly where you expect it to be. Even the modern upgraded features still look really nice. Like how they did the rear suspension just like the old suspension but kind of updated a little bit looks really great. I think the turn signals, while being modern, are still really elegant. The headlight bezel here, chrome perfectly accents a really crystal clear glass. Classic looking horn cast, reminiscent of the old bike or even vintage Vespas, just really dressing up the horn area. Nowadays, you just slap a horn on the front of a motorcycle. It's ugly as hell, but this one looks really good. All of the branding looks immaculate. They got the badges that are all classic Honda badges, but beautifully accent the bike. The next thing I love about the Honda Super Cub is probably going to surprise a few of you because I am not the smallest dude ever. For reference, I'm about 190 pounds at 5'11" with about a 32-inch inseam, but I really, really love how small the Honda Super Cub is. The size is perfect. It just makes it really, really accessible. Whether you're pushing it around the carport, getting it out of your garage, parking it at a bike rack, having to get over a little obstacle like bumping a curb or over a log if you're going down like a little bit of a dirt road, the bike makes motorcycling really, really accessible, really, really easy. It's super low to throw a leg over, super light to push around. And I think that accessibility doesn't only apply to beginner riders or shorter riders or younger riders or anything like that. Us experienced riders can really benefit from having a bike that's easier. I in particular take this bike more than any bike in the stables simply because it is so easy to make it happen. For reference, here's a little video of me getting on the bike, getting off of the bike, leg over, center stand. I don't know, I'm gonna film it in a second, but this is how I fit the bike. And it may appear that I'm a little bit too big for it, but it's super comfortable. I've ridden this bike all day long, and that seating position is really good, really comfortable, no issues at all. And the final thing on my list of top 3 things about the Honda Super Cub is the bike's simplicity. I love how simple this bike is. You have all the tech you need and none of the tech you don't want. They shelled out to give you ABS in the front where all your stopping power is, so you have ABS and a disc brake, but they save money and a lot of hassle by giving you a drum brake in the rear. That thing will never need to be serviced. It'll give you all the trail braking power you need. Plenty good unit. I like that simplicity. I like the semi-automatic transmission for just a bop around. It makes life really, really easy. And the air cooling. The fact that it's air cooled just eliminates coolant issues, coolant leaks, coolant changes. It just makes the bike way more easy to service. And just all in all, the bike is really simple, and that appeals to me as a person who doesn't really love complicated machines. So that definitely needed to be on the list. Okay, let's get into the negatives because there are a few of those. But one thing that has no negatives whatsoever is this channel. This channel is free of all major allergens. It's gluten-free, it's kosher, it's halal, it's vegan, and USDA certified good time. So go ahead and hit subscribe so we can keep this content rolling for you guys. So as I stated, there are a few things that I dislike about the bike, and it was kind of hard to come up with because they're not that big of a deal, but they do exist, so I want to go through those. And the number one thing that I absolutely hate about the bike, it's probably the only thing I truly hate about the bike, and that is the fact that there's not a concrete key. The key fob situation on this bike is kind of a nightmare. Let me go show it to you. So here's that ignition right there. I have the key fob here, which has a bunch of features on it. There's an alarm, there's like a find a bike feature. You can make it beep in a parking lot if you don't know where your bike is. But the whole thing just seems overly complicated for such a simple machine. Right now it's in the handlebar lock position. First I'm gonna have to turn on the ignition and then maybe be able to get it there. Now it's to where I can actually turn the bike on, activate that ignition, turn it to on, then you can fire it off. It just seems overly complicated. I don't know who asked for keyless ignition on a minimoto, but it's completely unnecessary. I don't know who asked for like a find my bike beeping feature. Completely unnecessary. And I also don't know who asked for like a super mediocre alarm on a bike this small. Yeah, cool feature for sure to have an alarm on your motorcycle, but this bike did not need that. A standard key would have been fine. So yeah, I don't know who asked for that, but it definitely wasn't me, my friends. While we're on the subject of things that absolutely nobody asked for, nobody hit up Honda and said, hey, why don't you put the world's worst battery box on this thing? This battery box is absolutely atrocious. As you've seen in this whole video, I have had this cover off because this battery is actually dead. The battery has a little bit of a draw to it. I think it's probably the keyless ignition searching for the key fob. It has a tiny little bit of a draw. So you're gonna need to ride this bike pretty often or put it on a trickle charger just to keep the battery alive. I did not do that. And it's kind of hard to route a cable for a battery tender, trickle charger, or whatever. You'd have to route it up through the battery panel and out under the seat. You can see a cable there. That's actually for heated gear. So the idea of taking that cable off to run a trickle charger cable or doing anything like that just sounds like a nightmare because getting to this battery sucks. It has this little cover here that you release the screw from. I put the screw back in just to not lose it. You take the screw out and you have to kind of loosely, gently pry the cover off. I found that it's easier to remove the side panels just to get at it, and that's just way too much work to just reach a battery first off. And then getting the battery out itself is also a nightmare. The little cover that pins it down just has the tightest tolerances ever. It's just really, really hard to get the battery in perfectly and out perfectly without breaking any of this very fragile plastic. This is just not a good design. They could have put this on a hinge. They could have made it to where the battery terminals reached up under the seat, so you just pop the seat to access them. They could have just made this slightly wider so you had a little bit more room. Just bulk the whole thing out just to make it more accessible. I don't know what needs to change, but something needs to change because this system just is really, really atrocious. So that's my list. My top 3 likes and I suppose my bottom 3 dislikes for the Honda Super Cub. When we're weighing the pros and cons, I think this passes Mama Bear's test. The pros really outweigh the cons for me. Those pros really make living with the bike way easier, and that's kind of what I'm looking for with the motorcycle. I've owned about 100 motorcycles in my life, and I just really appreciate one that's simple. It's really easy to work on. When I need a part, it's really easy to find. I need those quality of life things. At this point in my motorcycling career, I suppose, I don't need the newest thing. I don't need the fastest thing. I don't need all the hottest tech. I just want something that's really easy to live with, something that doesn't make me have to do too much research, make me have to stress too much. And the Super Cub really does that for me. You can kind of see that from all the motorcycles I own. They're all really simple machines, and this one is a really good addition. So hopefully that helps you out. Like I said, if you haven't yet, please hit subscribe. If you did like this video, please hit thumbs up. And last but not least, if you are considering the Super Cub and you have any questions, just drop them in the comments. I am definitely here to help. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.